Good to go? Okay, so target behavior training. So after we kind of do our FBA, we observing behaviors in action. We need to identify target behaviors that we're going to be tracking during our baseline period and then ongoingly in our behavior support plans. What's an important consideration about target behaviors? Right off the bat. What do we need to consider about them? Think behavioral dimension of ABA. Yes, they need to be measurable. And what's the other word I'm looking for? Thank you. Is that Brandon? He sounds different on the online world, but yes, thank you, Brandon. They need to be observable and measurable, right? So sometimes I get treatment plans in, and they could have multiple meanings to them, right? And I like to think if we pull a stranger from the street, can they reliably record on this behavior with 100% accuracy? And that's my test to see that, hey, I've written this target behavior and the definition appropriately, that anyone can record upon it reliably. It needs to be observable and measurable. And measurable, I need to be able to count it, some dimension of either countability, be able to count it, duration, how long the behavior occurs for in time, right? Or percentage we might use. There's a bunch of different ways, which is another training. We do measurement training. But we're going to get into target behaviors. Let's get into it, please. So in our treatment plan, this is where we're talking about the behaviors targets. And usually this first section is for behaviors that we want to what? I heard someone just say it. Work on or replace, weaken, right? Try to Well, this category is for replacing and weakening. In the next section, we should have a target behavior targeted for what? Strengthening, right? So we would like to see more of. And in a perfect world, we would like this behavior to compete with this behavior. That this behavior, when we teach, is less effortful for the person and leads to a greater form of reinforcement. And if it does, we're on the right track. And we make this behavior obsolete, useless. It competes with this problem behavior. So in the treatment plan, this highlighted section is what we are talking about today. Any questions so far? All right, let's continue, please. So what is a behavior? What is a behavior? We mentioned it probably 1,000 times already this morning. Observable and measurable action by an organism. So only living creatures can have behaviors. It needs to be action, not inaction. So not having a behavior is not a behavior. Not having a behavior is not a behavior. Must be biological nature that we mentioned. Sometimes you hear when you read I'll bring up Elon again, Tesla made moves with the Cybertruck. Well, companies can't really have behaviors, at least in our scope of practice. It needs to be a living organism. And it needs to involve movement or interaction with the environment. And interaction with the environment. So these are kind of the main criteria of a behavior. And we need a behavioral definition to go along with our target behaviors. That anyone can identify behaviors, like I mentioned. Clear, concise language, that if I pull a stranger off the street, they would be able to record upon this behavior with reliability. My opinion here, guys, is to keep it simple. I see sometimes people make this process very complex. But the idea here is to make it simple. That someone could read your treatment plan and record upon it reliably, which is what dimension of ABA? Diego mentioned it last meeting. Technological, right? Okay. No assumptions, judgments, or feelings are involved in this. Detail exactly what the behavior looks like. And when we say response, sometimes you hear the word response in place of behavior. We just mean a single instance of behavior. And a good way to kind of tell if this is a behavior or not is a dead man's test. If a dead person can do it, it is not a behavior. So if we write a target behavior, and I know it's gruesome, but Halloween's coming up, guys. If a dead man can do it, it is not a behavior. Does anyone have any questions about that idea? Okay. So why behaviors are targeting, and these are kind of the main categories we want to see in the treatment plan. So could we go? So we have weakening, replacing, strengthening, developing, and can we go back to the treatment plan quick, Shay? Sorry. No problem. Right here we have behaviors targeted for replacement. We can have target behaviors for weakening, for strengthening, for replacing, for generalization, for stimulus control. So that is what needs to be changed here in your heading. And we're going to get into the headings right now. So weakening is for maladaptive behavior, obviously. And weakening, because this behavior occurs in overabundance. It doesn't mean that we want to get rid of this behavior. It doesn't mean that this behavior we want to extinguish to 0 levels. We just want to see less of it. Can someone give me an example of a okay behavior that may be maladaptive if it occurs too often? Calling out in classroom? Okay. Maybe we want that to occur how many times? You know, I mean, I would think whatever's normal in that environment, right? What's another behavior that we might want to weaken but not totally get rid of? Yes, asking to go to the bathroom. That's the one I think of all the time. Like we have that, and you've seen it in school. Maybe we were a practicer of this behavior where we don't like math class. And that's not me, guys. I just want to point that out there. This wasn't me. But we don't like math class, and every time we go into math class, we're asking to use the bathroom, right? And we've seen this over and over again. And you know, a main culprit is kind of like in schools. I feel like our specials, like in like music class, everyone's asking you to go to the bathroom for some reason. So that's not a bad behavior. That's not a behavior we want to get rid of, but it's a behavior that might be occurring in overabundance. It occurs too often. So we want to make sure to have strategies that weaken this behavior, right? Not get rid of it. Replacing is kind of where we want to take things if we have inappropriate or harmful behaviors that we do want to extinguish. We would want to target them for replacing. That we want to teach a new skill for this maladaptive behavior that can replace this problem behavior. So we would, and can someone give me examples of these severe behaviors?
Well, like when what Diego was saying about how someone would shout out, "Raise your hand," that would fix it.
Well, that could be a good skill for strengthening. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
That's all I could think about when you were saying that.
Well, what's an inappropriate or harmful behavior?
If I'm punching or kicking Andy to get his attention, instead I can tap him on the shoulder or something.
Yeah, right. So punching, aggression, right? We would want to target for replacing. What's another one that we might routinely see?
If I'm running away, just to get a break.
Yeah, elopement, very, very harmful behavior. Could be serious based on the person's safety skills. Not always, though. We had someone that took breaks like that, and they were safe. So, you know, we had to play that consideration. What about self-injury? I mean, that comes to mind, very paramount in my mind when we talk about target behavior that we would want to replace, self-injury. Any questions for these two maladaptive categories? Okay, so the rest of these, go ahead. We do. Developing. So we'll get to that. I'm not sure why I cut that off. Sorry about that. It's probably like we need a new projector. That's what we need. And a tripod. We'll get to that in a moment, Jess. Sorry. Strengthening. So the rest of these are going to be about skill acquisition or the skills we like to teach our VIPs. So the first one, we might target behaviors to strengthen. And I need to consider here, does this VIP have the skills to perform this task already? Do they do it in some capacity already? We're just not seeing it enough. They do it, but not as often as we would like. So we would want to target this behavior. And remember, it's a behavior or skill that we're teaching. We would like to see it more often. What's an example of this we might see in our practice? Coping skills, absolutely. Healthy coping skills, appropriate coping skills that we want to see more often. We would want to see this person practicing coping skills much more often. Great answer. Communication, very nice. Yeah, they could communicate. We want to see this functional communication skill skyrocket. We want to practice this all the time. What else? I mean, I could even think about one, waking up to get to work on time. Right? Does this person they know how to wake, they know how to set their alarm clock, they know how to wake up, do their grooming, get ready, but they're very long in this process. We want them to get to work on time more often. Sometimes they get to work on time. We want to see that more often. What else? Anything else? Okay, so developing is another one we would target for skill acquisition, and it's kind of an individual does not know how to do the skill. So we need to teach them. And you could see how our treatment interventions would change based on why we're targeting. If we're looking to strengthen skills, maybe we focus on a lot of reinforcement strategies. Maybe we focus on, and we could take this anyway. But developing, we might focus more on task analysis. We might focus on more of those kind of strategies to help teach them the skills necessary to develop these skills. Many times, and not all the time, but a lot of times our adults we work with have experience doing some of these skills that we're teaching them. So many times we see strengthening. But not to say we never see developing. Developing is another important consideration. Does this person do this behavior at all? And that is what developing is all about. And why we label these is because our interventions are going to change based on why we're targeting them. All right, let's continue, please. Generalization. And all of our treatment plans should include a generalization component. They should all include strategies for generalization. Oh, we should block that window like that person just did. It occurs in one location or with one person, and that's what we should update this training. The behavior occurs in one location or with one person, and it needs to happen in all locations. So we need to tailor fit strategies for generalization. And every one of our skill acquisition behaviors should be targeted for generalization as well. Most of them, every single one. We should have a generalization component. Can someone give me an example of what a generalization strategy might be?
Waiting toleration.
Okay, yeah, waiting toleration. We practice that in the house. Now we're going to practice it at the restaurant. Now we're going to see if that skill is maintained in the restaurant, perhaps. Go ahead. Communication. We practice communication at a table, doing flashcards. Are we going to see this behavior at home with no flashcards present? With mom instead of the staff? What else? I like to think of stimulus. There's stimulus generalization and response generalization, right? So think about these too. How many different ways are there to say good morning or hello when you greet someone? What are some of them?
What's up?
What's up? I love how you guys both said the same thing. What else? Hey.
How you doing?
How you doing? That was my next one. What's going? Wow. We're synced up in here. What else? Right? So we need to say, can you imagine if we taught someone to say hello and that's the only thing they're going with? We have someone on the floor who told the same joke over and over and over again. At first, it's great, super funny. How stale does it get? How stale how stale does the same response get over and over and over again? Variety's the spice of life, some say. Teach the different responses. And you don't need to teach all the responses. When we were learning functional communication from watching our parents and people around us growing up, we didn't have to learn every response, but we just had to learn some of them, and then we would generalize that skill. We would continue our learning process as we learned about culture and our culture we live in every day, watching videos, TV, going out to the community. We would learn all these skills. But we need that foundation. What about a stimulus? Considering that's a response generalization or an instance of behavior, what's a stimulus generalization? So that's stimulus control, yes. What about stimulus generalization? So we have response generalization, which means different responses. When I think of generalization, I think different. Different responses. What's stimulus generalization? Different stimulus, right? How about that credit? I always say it. How about that credit card machine? How many different credit card machines are there? Too many. You're absolutely correct. Do you need to do the chip? Do you need to swipe? It changes all the time. Do you have to give it to the cashier? Do you have to do it yourself? Do you have to insert? There's a lot of, and they're all responses, but the credit card machine is different too, right? Different stimuli. So think about generalization strategies, super important. And we could tailor fit these, we could target these in our strategies as well. And we could talk about that in supervision, of course. Stimulus control, Andy, go for it. I like to think about it as like generalization haywire, right? Like we teach them to, like Andy said, use the toilet. And now they're going to the bathroom in the sink, in the toilet, because they kind of resemble a toilet. Then they go in the potted plant, right? That kind of resembles a toilet a bit. I don't know, right? So it's kind of generalization that got haywire, that they overgeneralized, and we need to bring the behavior back under stimulus control, bring it back under what actually is an appropriate way to use the bathroom, or appropriate place to use the bathroom, I should say, right? They're hanging out with their friends, and they could use potty language with their friends. And I know I said potty language. I'm a dad now. Right? And then they go into school with their teacher and they start using potty language. Not good. Not good. We need to bring this behavior back. We need to reel it in. Right? Stimulus control. And we might target a behavior for maintenance. And I rarely see this in our treatment plans, but it would be great if we did. And when we could have achieved previous success with the behavior, and we decide, hey, this behavior doesn't need special interventions anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop doing these special interventions and hope the behavior will maintain. But after a little bit, it does not. The behavior reemerges. So we may bring those strategies back into place, and we would target these behaviors for maintenance to bring them back in place, bring the strategies back in place so that we can work on them again. You can have more than one category in your treatment plans. It could say strengthening and for generalization. That's why we have this skill acquisition behavior. It doesn't need to be one or the other. It could be multiple categories when you're writing your treatment plans. Any questions about the 7 reasons? Why is it always 7? The 7 reasons we would target behaviors. Does it make sense to you guys? You guys know where in the treatment plan that this goes? Okay, let's continue, please. There's 2 ways to define a target behavior, and this is the same idea. We can use both ways, and that's ideal, but we could use one or another. We can define a behavior functionally, define its relation to the occurrence in the presence of a particular antecedent or consequence. Describe behaviors based on their common effect on the environment. We could combine behaviors if they serve the same function. I think that's what that means. Oops. No problem. And we have a topographical definition. And this is the most common way where we see behaviors written. What the behavior looks like, defined based on the physical features or the form of the response. Describe how behaviors look, includes observable action. When we're talking about a maladaptive behavior, what do you guys think is more important? Anyone? You could be wrong.
Function.
Yes, functional. Why is that?
They're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, we need to know why they're doing it so that we can come up with intervention strategies that compete with it. If we just list what the behavior looks like, how can we come up with interventions to replace it? How can we come up with treatment strategies that will impact this behavior? If we have a behavior function to escape and we only know what the behavior looks like, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble with our treatment plan. When you're writing target behaviors for maladaptive behaviors, I like to include both. When Jimmy is presented with an adversive task like homework, he will engage in ripping up the homework because in the past, it has led to the escape of the homework or the demand of homework being removed. Can someone give me another combination of functional and topographical definition for a behavior that you just made up? Or maybe tangible objects.
Mike is targeting himself because in the past, to avoid come to work, because in the past it worked for him.
Okay.
5 letters there in bed.
It's pretty accurate. I try to use names of people not in the room, but we'll take it. We'll allow it this time. We'll allow it this time. So guys, the functional definition is very important. It is very important. It's going to tell what behaviors are recurring. Say the person has the same behavior, but it occurs for different reasons. Well, they all require different strategies. So we want to make sure that all the instances are tracked for times they are escaping. Not for times where they're getting access to attention, right? Or getting access to tangibles. So we would want to record, because we could be working on escape functioning and still see the behavior in other circumstances. So we should record that differently. But I would put both of these in my maladaptive behavior section. What's one reason we would use a topographical definition alone? And typically I see that more for skill acquisition behaviors. We would just write a topographical definition. But if we were teaching a skill, what skills would be important for topographical that we don't really care about the function? Okay, yeah, math skills. I was thinking handwriting, right? We don't really care about the function, why they're doing this. We just want to improve holding the pencil the right way, that they don't smear their work, those kind of ideas, which is tough for a lefty. What about riding a book? I'm glad a lot of people can relate. Riding a bike, right? We don't care. What did I say?
Writing a book.
Did I say writing a book?
Yeah.
Okay, well, reading a book's a good one too, right? That's a fine one too that I just...
It's Monday.
I mean, that just shows you reinforcement. There's no thinking involved. It just happens, right? It's beautiful. Yeah, so writing a book, riding a bike. We just care about more of the form of the behavior. The person's able to be on the bike with the proper posture. They're able to pedal, keep their balance. We care more about what the behavior looks like than the function behind it. So I don't want to discount topographical definitions. But when we're talking about maladaptive behaviors, we need a function. We need to know why they're happening. Okay? And what the functional means is we include the common antecedents and the consequences associated with the behavior in question. When presented, when Brandon and Mike are talking to each other about ABA strategies, our buddy engages in throwing the tablet because in the past it brought the attention back to him. Right, Brandon?
Right, you got that right.
So what is our strategy, Brandon?
Either provide them attention on like a dense schedule, or we can try to even teach them like a proper man for attention and kind of set up that situation so that he can learn how to get our attention properly.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brandon. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, let's continue, please. Anyone questions about that? Okay, we talked a lot about this already. Use functional definitions when the function encompasses all instances of the observed behavior, found throughout observations repeatedly. The function of behavior is most relevant, which many times it is, especially for maladaptive behaviors. We care why the behavior is happening rather than what it looks like. Right? People can engage in self-injury for a lot of different reasons. Everyone's different, and everyone engages in behaviors. Even though they might resemble the same behaviors, they could be occurring for different reasons. We need to delve into that function. All right, let's continue. Use topographical definitions when no conclusion of function of behaviors. And this could happen, guys, where we're not sure why behaviors are occurring. Talk to your BCBA. Does not produce consistent effects on the environment. Other events produce similar effects on the environment. Talk to your BCBA to figure out the best approach. All right, let's continue, please. Okay, how to write these. We're going to start with the FBA summary. We're going to do direct observations, and we're going to collect ABC data collection. If you want to know more about this, watch our functional behavior assessment video, now on YouTube. Determine if you need a functional, topographic, or both definitions for behavior. Many times for maladaptive, we use what? Both. Thank you. Yes. All right, let's continue. Which category fits with your finding? Weakening, replacing, strengthening, developing, maintaining, generalization. Discuss with BCBA during supervision. How important, guys. This doesn't all fall on you guys to figure this all out. You talk to the BCBAs. Me, Ken, Sarah, John, the dream team. Observations, data collections, intervention strategies. That's what we're gonna all bring together. All right, let's continue. That's it. Do you guys have any questions about target behaviors? All right, well, thank you for your attention. And we're not done with the training, but we could take a few-minute break if needed.